The way the story works, it's found only in the Gospel of John, chapter 7 and 8. And Jesus is teaching the temple, and the Jewish leaders drag this woman in front of him, and they say, she's been caught in the act of adultery. This story was not originally in the Gospel of John. This is a story that was added to the Gospel of John by later scribes. How do I know that? We have a number of early manuscripts of the Gospel of John. This story is not found in any of our early or best manuscripts of the Gospel of John.
People might be surprised at is that the story of the woman taken in adultery that's brought before Jesus, he says that is not part of the text. What do you say to that?
I agree with him that it's not part of what John wrote. It's John 7:53 through 8:11.
Jika sebagian isi dari sebuah kitab suci ternyata merupakan hasil karya manusia, apakah ia masih layak disebut kitab suci? Untuk memulainya, mari kita tanyakan terlebih dahulu kepada ChatGPT. Benarkah perikop adultery merupakan tambahan di dalam Bible? Lalu apa sebenarnya perikop adultery itu? Bagian ini terdapat dalam Gospel Yohanes dan menceritakan kisah seorang wanita yang tertangkap berzina dan hampir dirajam. Namun akhirnya diselamatkan oleh Yesus.
If the scriptures, by which I mean the Bible and the New Testament, is unreliable, then why, Adnan, would you quote it as part of your presentation?
I firmly believe there is definitely truth in the Bible, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. I'm a firm believer, and every Muslim who understands his theology and his literature and his scripture will tell you exactly the same thing. Our view on the Bible is that there is definitely truth in there. Having said that, we also believe that there is definitely falsehood in there. It is a mixture of falsehood and truth. And I'm not telling you this. Actually, this is not my view. This is the view of the Christian scholars, conservative scholars, as well as liberal scholars. Conservative scholars will tell you certain passages of the Gospel of John, for example, were not written by John. They were written by someone else. Later on, it was added into the Bible. The famous pericope adultery, the Gospel of John, chapter 7, verse 53 to 8:11. This entire chunk, the story of the adulteress who was brought to Jesus Christ to be stoned, this story cannot be found in the earlier manuscripts. And scholars, conservative as well as liberal scholars, they believe that this passage simply doesn't belong to the Gospel of John. It was added later on. And there are many more examples. So the reliability question is not a Muslim objection. It is actually a well-known fact among all scholars.